3. Shame and self-blame. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. Letting go might be about releasing our own past mistakes, guilt, or a deep sense of shame about who we are. Shame is that painful belief that I am bad, unworthy. It often lingers from things like childhood trauma, being told you're not enough, social stigma, or mistakes we've made that we can't seem to forgive ourselves for. Self-blame, similarly, is when you can't let go of the feeling, I screwed up, it's all my fault. These feelings can be quite toxic. They're linked with depression and low self-esteem. Shame is tricky because it's very internal and often hidden. People carry shame silently. It also confuses with identity strongly. For example, a person abused as a child might grow up with a core belief, I'm dirty or unlovable, which is shame-based and hard to shake. Self-blame after, say, a tragic accident, it was my fault, they got hurt, can become a form of penance, continually blaming oneself as if that could undo things, or as if you don't deserve to move on. The process here is one of self-forgiveness and self-compassion. Research has shown that self-forgiveness, truly acknowledging your mistake, making amends if possible, then releasing the guilt, leads to lower anxiety and higher life satisfaction. But some fear self-forgiveness. If I forgive myself, am I letting myself off the hook? Important, self-forgiveness is not letting yourself off the hook. It's getting yourself out of the stocks in the town square where you've been locked and punished beyond reason. It's saying, I am not defined solely by that action or that label. Micro practices for shame and self-blame. 1. Self-compassion letter. Kristen Neff, a pioneer in self-compassion research, often suggests writing a letter to yourself from the perspective of an unconditionally loving friend or mentor. For example, imagine someone who sees all your flaws and loves you anyway. It could even be a pet or just an ideal persona. Write as them, addressing your shame or guilt. Dear you, I know you feel like you failed, but I want you to know I see how hard you try and how deeply you care. You made a mistake, yes, but that doesn't make you a bad person. You are human. I forgive you. Please forgive yourself. You are so worthy of love and kindness. Write what you would say to a friend in your shoes. Then read this letter to yourself. Even record it and listen. It can be surprisingly emotional, a lot of tears, because it might be the first time you've shown yourself true compassion on this issue. Keep the letter and reread whenever the shame spirals return. 2. The balloon exercise, letting go ritual. Here's a gentle ritual. Write down what you're ashamed of or blaming yourself for on a piece of paper. Find a helium balloon, or if not available, use a small paper boat in water or something that symbolizes release. Attach the paper to the balloon. Go somewhere safe outside, and after taking a moment to acknowledge, I am choosing to let this go, let the balloon go and watch it float away. Or set the paper boat down a stream, etc. As you watch it go, physically feel the release. Imagine that shame leaving your body and drifting off. Say out loud if you can, I let go of this. I free myself. Now, this might sound exactly like the kind of one-time ritual we warned about in part 4, but note, this is done after you've done some self-reflection or letters, etc., not as a standalone. It serves as a symbolic turning point. Even if the feeling comes back later, it might. Recall that moment of watching it float away. It's a mental anchor that you have decided to release it. Many find this tangible act powerful. You might even breathe easier afterward, as if the weight literally got lighter. 3. Apology and amends if applicable. If your self-blame is from hurting someone else, a crucial step to forgiving yourself is doing what you can to apologize or make it right. This might mean writing a sincere apology, whether or not the person forgives you in return. Your part is to express remorse and, if possible, fix what can be fixed. Knowing you've taken responsibility can allow you to let the guilt go. If direct contact isn't possible or safe, you can still write an apology and perhaps share it with a therapist or a symbolic act of atonement, like volunteering or helping others in a way related to your mistake, as a way of giving back to the universe. Research on self-forgiveness emphasizes the difference between healthy guilt, which motivates amends, and persistent shame, which just condemns oneself. By taking action to atone, you satisfy that healthy guilt and then have the moral permission to forgive yourself. After you've done so, practice telling yourself, I did what I could to make it right. I've learned and grown. I release this guilt now. Sometimes even repeating, "I forgive myself" in a meditative state can help rewire the brain. If you've done the groundwork of making amends, you'll feel it's earned. 4. Affirmation of worth. Diffusion technique. Shame often manifests as a harsh inner voice. "I'm stupid. I'm unlovable." A diffusion trick is to name that voice. For example, the inner critic, or give it a silly name like old Mr. Guilty, and then deliberately counter it with a more rational affirmation. Not toxic positivity, but something believable, like "I made mistakes, but I'm still worthy of love," or "I am learning and I deserve forgiveness." Write a few such affirmations on sticky notes or in your phone. When the shame voice pipes up, respond with one of those statements, out loud if possible. "Actually, I am a good person who had a bad experience," or "I'm deserving of kindness just like anyone." Initially, it might feel false, but repetition and speaking it out loud can create new neural associations. Over time, the old fused identity of bad me can give way to a more balanced identity. "I'm a person with strengths and weaknesses, like everyone. I strive to do good, and I forgive myself for the bad." Example vignette. Nina carries deep shame from years of being told by an ex-partner that she was unattractive and not good enough. Even after that toxic relationship ended, Nina hears that voice in her head daily. She withdraws socially, convinced people secretly dislike her. She starts the self-compassion letter practice. Writing as a wise, loving friend to herself, she writes, "Dear Nina, you've been through so much pain. I see how hard you try to be kind to everyone. I wish you could see yourself as I see you, radiant, caring, and resilient. You are more than what that cruel person said about you. You have a beautiful heart." As she writes, Nina cries, feeling some warmth toward herself, maybe for the first time in ages. She reads this letter whenever she's down. Next, she decides to confront the shame physically. She writes, "I am not enough" on a slip and ties it to a balloon. Letting it go in the park, she imagines letting that belief leave her. She still hears the inner critic, but she's prepared now. She nicknames it the gremlin. When it hisses, "You're so ugly," Nina has started saying back, "I have my own unique beauty," or even humorously, "Hey gremlin, thanks for your input, but I'm not interested." It sounds cheesy, but each rebuttal weakens the gremlin. Nina also joins a support group for survivors of emotional abuse, where apologizing to herself and symbolically to others for believing those lies becomes part of her healing. Over months, Nina notices she can accept compliments without immediately dismissing them. And if she makes a mistake at work, she no longer spirals into, "I'm terrible," but thinks, "Oops, I'll fix it. No big." The shame that was like a tight knot in her stomach loosens. She stands a bit taller. She's not entirely free of self-doubt. Few of us ever are. But those moments are now passing clouds, not permanent storms. She's let go of the core belief of unworthiness that once weighed her down.
Number 4. Perfectionism and the need for control. Letting go in this domain means releasing the iron grip of needing things or oneself to be perfect and letting go of the illusion of constant control. Perfectionism often leads to chronic stress because nothing ever feels good enough, and the perfectionist can't let go of mistakes or delegate tasks or adapt to unforeseen changes. It's an attachment to an unreal ideal. Likewise, a control-oriented person might struggle to let go of micromanaging or outcomes, leading to immense anxiety when life inevitably deviates from plans. Evolutionarily, we seek control to feel safe, but over-controlling leads to rigidity and, ironically, more stress when things don't comply. Micro-practices for perfectionism and control. 1. The 90% rule. Deliberate imperfection. If you're a perfectionist, try this. On a task or project, intentionally aim to complete it to 90% of your ideal standard, then call it done. For example, writing an email? Don't rewrite it 5 times. Send it when it's, say, 90% polished. Designing something? Leave a tiny flaw. This feels uncomfortable, which is the point. It's a behavioral experiment to prove that the world doesn't end, and often no one even notices the imperfection. Over time, you learn that letting some slack isn't catastrophic. Many perfectionists find that what they consider 90% is others' 100% anyway. This loosens the all-or-nothing mindset. Pair this with self-talk. It's okay for this to be not perfect. Done is better than perfect. Remember, research indicates that perfectionism correlates with higher stress and lower productivity when taken too far. You actually might achieve more by letting some things go at good enough. So practicing 90% can ironically improve performance on the big picture by freeing time, energy. 2. Worry window. Scheduled letting go of control. If you're always mentally juggling things you must control, schedules, what ifs, etc., try scheduling a daily worry window of 10 minutes. During that window, you allow yourself to fret, plan, list, micromanage in your head as much as you want, write down concerns, etc. But outside that window, when a control worry pops up, you tell yourself, not now, I'll think about it at 6 p.m. or whenever your window is. This cognitive trick from anxiety research helps because it acknowledges your urge to control, but contains it, preventing it from spilling into your entire day. People often find that when the worry window arrives, they either don't feel the need to worry as much, or they use the time productively to solve or write down issues, then move on. It trains you to let go in the moment, knowing you're not ignoring things, just postponing them to a structured time. Over time, you might shrink the window or skip it if you realize nothing critical happens when you loosen the grip. 3. Mindfulness meditation for letting thoughts be. Perfectionism and control often involve overthinking. A short daily mindfulness practice, even 5 minutes of focusing on the breath, helps you practice not grabbing onto thoughts. When a thought like, did I lock the door properly? Should I check again? Arises during meditation, you learn to notice it and let it pass. This skill generalizes. In real life, when you start obsessing over making something just a bit more perfect, you can catch that impulse and choose to stop. Mindfulness also activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing the physiological arousal that underlies the urge to control. One specific meditation you can try is a leaf on a stream visualization, often used in ACT. Imagine your thoughts as leaves floating down a stream. Watch them come and go without trying to scoop them out. Practice specifically with thoughts of control. What if this goes wrong? See that on a leaf, watch it drift. This fosters an attitude of let it be. 4. Delegate or drop one task weekly. If you have a too high standard for yourself to do everything, challenge yourself by delegating one thing to someone else or dropping a non-essential task completely each week. For example, have a colleague do part of a project and don't hover over them. Or decide that this week you'll skip thoroughly cleaning the garage, which was on your to-do list, and see if life continues. Keep a journal of outcomes. Did the colleague do okay? Maybe not exactly how you would, but it was fine. Did the world end because the garage stayed messy? This empirical approach, akin to exposure therapy, shows your brain that relinquishing control doesn't result in disaster. Over time, you might even enjoy the relief that comes with trusting others or accepting unfinished things. The goal is to internalize, I can tolerate imperfection and uncertainty. With repetition, your tolerance grows, and those situations no longer spike your anxiety. Example vignette. Consider Raj, a manager who's a notorious perfectionist. He spends countless late hours tweaking presentations and often ends up doing his team members' work because he doesn't trust it'll be done right. He's burned out, and his team is disengaged since he micromanages. Raj decides to implement the 90% rule. For the next report, when he felt it was 90% good, he forced himself to send it to his boss rather than agonize over it till 3 a.m. Result? The boss approved it? No issues. Raj was shocked. His 90% was clearly sufficient. Encouraged, he also tries delegating. He assigns an important client brief to one of his employees and vows not to intervene unless absolutely needed. He feels anxious, but uses a worry window approach. He notes down his worries about that brief and says he'll check in tomorrow instead of every hour. His employee produces a decent brief, not exactly how Raj would, a few minor mistakes, but nothing catastrophic. Raj sees that a quick review and feedback to the employee, instead of rewriting it, both saved him time and helped the employee learn. Each week, Raj picks something to let others handle or to simply not perfect, like he decides his home doesn't need to look like a catalog every day, leaving the bed unmade occasionally to fight that internal drill sergeant. He also starts meditating 5 minutes in the morning, noticing how many must-do X thoughts clutter his mind and practicing releasing them. After 2 months, Raj finds he's going home earlier, sleeping better because he's not rehashing work at midnight, and his team actually performs better now that he's not smothering them. There's still a pang when something isn't up to his old ultra-high standard, but he can shrug it off now and think, it's fine. Done is better than perfect. In essence, Raj is letting go of the toxic perfectionism and need to control everything, and in return, gaining efficiency, better relationships, and peace of mind.